What to provide your teacher recommendation writers. That is the topic of today's video. My name is Craig Meister. I'm a college admissions coach. You can learn more about me and how you can work with me one-on-one throughout the entire college admissions process on my website, which is collegemeister.com. And if you're interested in learning about whether or not you are on track for selective college admission or whether or not your student is on track for selective college admission, I encourage you to go to my new online assessment. It's free. It only takes 3 minutes to complete. And it's at areyouontracktogetin.com. Again, areyouontracktogetin.com, and you will start to clarify the answer to that very question. areyouontracktogetin.com. So this is the final episode of a 4-part series where we talk all about teacher recommendations. And we're, of course, in the context of your college applications, since I'm a college admissions coach. And so the topics have proceeded thusly. We started with when to ask for your teacher recommendations. We then proceeded to go on to who to ask for your teacher recommendations. Then we last spoke about how to ask for your teacher recommendations. And today we're wrapping up with what to provide your teacher recommendation writers really every step of the way. So let's say you have now gotten 2 teachers to say yes, they're going to write your letter of recommendation. By the way, we're doing this on Teacher Appreciation Week, May 6th through May 10th in the United States. This is like a national week in the United States. We want to appreciate our teachers. They work very hard. They're in many cases underpaid. So we thank you, teachers, by the way. Thank you for all your efforts. No teacher that I know of gets bonuses for writing letters of recommendation for their high school students who are applying to colleges and universities. So thanks is all they're going to get. And so you want to be as courteous as you can possibly be throughout this. And maybe if you have a little money for a box of chocolates at the end, you can do that too. But what to provide them before the box of chocolates? Let's talk about that today. As I mentioned in the last video, the night after you've asked your teacher and he or she has said yes, that they're going to write, or she is going to write, or he's going to write your letter of recommendation, I strongly recommend that you follow up with an email. And in that email, if you have a resume, if you have a strong extracurricular resume that you can share with that teacher as an attachment to that email as a Google Doc or a PDF or whatever, you attach it, because this teacher may know you very well in his or her history class, or this teacher may have known you quite well last year in English, or maybe even for the last 2 years in English, but he or she may not know you that well beyond English or history or science or math or whatever. And so giving them the full context of what you've been up to outside of the classroom is very wise. If you don't happen to have a full-fledged extracurricular resume to share with that teacher the night after you've asked face-to-face at school, then I definitely encourage you to purchase, it's so cheap, my How to Build an Extraordinary Extracurricular Resume online course. It takes less than an hour to complete, and it will teach you exactly the format you need to use to build out a strong extracurricular resume, whether you're an actor, an athlete, or all of the above. That course is going to be very short, very cheap, and very, very efficient and effective at helping you develop an extracurricular resume that you would be proud to share, not just in a few months on your college application, but also with your teachers as they think about you and how they're going to contextualize you and your performance in their classroom when also considering everything else you've been doing. So I would definitely say you want to share that. If you can't share it the day of the teacher saying that he or she will write your letter of recommendation, then you definitely want to be able to provide that extracurricular resume to that teacher either by hand in the classroom or electronically by no later than the first week of August of your senior year. And the reason being is you could want to start applying to college as early as the first week of August, because lots of colleges start accepting applications that first week because of rolling admission. So you don't want to in any way inhibit your teacher's ability to get your letters of recommendation out. And if you have not already shared with your teacher a letter of a resume by the first week of August, then you're now delaying things potentially. Maybe that teacher wanted to write over summer break, for instance. That's a really good reason why I would really actually recommend you get that resume to that teacher before school breaks for summer, after you're right at the end of your 11th grade year. But if you really can't get your act together by then no later than the first week of August, because that way you can also follow up with the teacher and say, look, I'm applying to the University of Arizona this month in August. Will my letter of recommendation be ready? I shouldn't even say Arizona. I don't know offhand if Arizona even accepts letters of recommendation anymore or ever did. I don't keep track of all this because I work with hundreds of colleges all the time, but that is a school that could be either way because it's a large state school, so they may not even take letters of recommendation from teachers, but some do. Some do require letters of recommendation from teacher, even if they're very big. So that would be like an opportune time to obviously know the answer to that question, so you don't say anything out of turn. But if you do know there's a college you're applying to within the 30 days of when you ask or you share that resume in August of your 12th grade year, then you can, of course, drop them a reminder that you'll be applying soon, so that if they have not started writing their letter of recommendation on your behalf, they will do so sooner rather than later, because they know you have a sooner deadline that you're working with potentially, especially if it's a rolling school. They get back to you as soon as they have everything in support of your application within a few weeks. So that would be an opportune time. But what else can you share with a teacher? So again, by the way, that How to Build an Extraordinary Extracurricular Resume course is linked below this video. There's a link to it right below this video, and you can learn about whether or not you want to purchase that course. Again, it's very cheap, it's very fast, and I strongly recommend it. Beyond that, what else can you provide the teacher? Well, I strongly recommend, I've been using that a lot this week. I strongly recommend, I say that again and again, but I strongly recommend that you think long and hard about what you liked most about this teacher's class, whether it was a 9th grade or just this recently completed 11th grade year, and you follow up with the teacher. It doesn't have to be the day you ask, but it can be within a month or so, especially if you ask an 11th grade year. And you send them like maybe a 1-page long email that says, I just wanted to give you a little bit more details about why I asked you, Miss Smith. And then you write a paragraph about, what you liked about her as a teacher, what was maybe your favorite project or unit in her class, why the subject is of interest to you. You want to feed her information that she could potentially literally lift and maybe put into new words, of course, but and plug into her letter. So if she's at a loss, or maybe she's writing 20 letters of recommendation for different kids, you're basically feeding her context that will help put you in context in her letter. So let's say you really enjoy the unit on the American Revolution in her American history course because you have a great-great-great-great-grandfather or great-great-great-great-grandfather who was in the American Revolution, or maybe you've immigrated from Iran and there was a revolution there when your family was there, so you relate or whatever. These little anecdotes could easily be something that she could write in a paragraph in her letter of recommendation that, Johnny really enjoyed my American Revolution unit in particular because he had a family connection to either the American Revolution or a revolution in the country that his family is originally from or whatever, or is currently still in. If you're in Iran watching this video, maybe, hi, how are you? I hope you're enjoying life in Iran. But the point being, wherever you may be, you want to try to create those connections so that the teacher can make you a real life person. The worst letters of recommendation, frankly, from teachers are the ones that are 2 or 3 paragraphs and summarize how you did in the class. Because as I mentioned in a previous video, if all the teacher is going to say is that you're a great student in 5 different ways, that's going to be boring as heck for admissions officers to read. Whereas if the teacher can humanize you as not just a student, but as a person, and make connections and show that you made connections between his or her subject area and critical thinking and how it's important to that student and vis-a-vis his or her goals, then the letter is going to pop. It's going to be a much better letter. And if University of Chicago gets this letter, or Penn gets this letter, or Brown gets this letter, or even Miami gets this letter, they're going to read this letter and like, this is a critical thinking young man or woman, because it's very clear that this student is making connections between the subject matter and why it's important. And this translates, of course, into making connections at the college level and being a more thoughtful citizen of that college, or resident of that college for 4 years, or classmate at that college, or student at that college. So you definitely want to start with the idea of not just sharing the resume with the teacher who's writing your letter of recommendation, but also sharing details about why you picked the teacher, why his or her subject area was important to you, and why moving forward, this is going to help you as well. If there was other things about that class you enjoyed, by all means share that as well in such a follow-up email to the teacher. And I would definitely put in an email. I wouldn't just say it, in passing in the hallway. I would put into an email because it's easier if it's literally written and typed out. That teacher can copy and paste it and reword it so that you're basically feeding them content that will humanize you in his or her letter of recommendation. Now, I will say a lot of organized schools and teachers have whole forms that you need to complete in order for that teacher to write your letter of recommendation. And props to those teachers and schools. I think that's great. When I was a high school director of college counseling, I would actually give students forms they would have to complete and hand to the teacher, or complete online in Naviance or what have you, and share with the teacher, so the teacher could see, as she is drafting your letter, the responses to such questions about what was important about that teacher's class, why you picked it, what your goals are for college and life. These are important things. Like, maybe the teacher doesn't know that you want to become a doctor. Or in the case of that history case study I just sort of made up a minute ago, maybe you want to be a historian, or maybe you want to be a future history professor. And so if you share with the teacher who's a history teacher, let's say you asked, why you picked them, and maybe one of the reasons is that you really love the subject area so much, you're going to major in history in college and hope to be a professor or a politician one day, and employ or harness the knowledge you learned in his or her history class and history in college for that end goal. Sharing that would be very wise, right, with the teacher, so that when he or she is writing your letter of recommendation, he can say, I know that Johnny isn't just in love with American history today and wants to do well in it today for the purposes of doing well in high school, but he really is invested in studying American history writ large in college and beyond, because he has a long-term goal of being a college professor himself. So again, those are extra details that help contextualize you. Obviously, don't share anything with the teacher that you will somehow contradict on your application. Don't tell your history teacher you want to be a history teacher or a professor when you grow up, and then apply to Penn for warden. That's insane. That's crazy. Don't do that. Then you're caught in a lie. You seem like completely transparently disingenuous. But if you can keep your story straight and you're being honest to all parties, the more you share with the teacher, the more likely that the teacher is going to be able to humanize you and actually provide content to the college that will give the college more comfort and more assurance that you are who you say you are, the stories match up, and everything we're learning about you complements everything else we're learning about you, and we're more likely to want to accept you as a result. So as I mentioned, if a school actually does ask you questions, or a teacher asks you questions. I knew teachers in the past who actually require the students who they say yes to write their letters of recommendation to sit for an interview with that teacher at a later date. If that is a part of that teacher's requirements, then follow that teacher's rules. This teacher, again, is doing you a favor. The least you can do is talk to that teacher 4 p.m. after school one day for 30 or 40 minutes or an hour, if that teacher requires that as a part of helping him or her write a better letter on your behalf. That's the same idea, just a face-to-face interview or conversation. But again, a lot of teachers have forms now, either online, via email, or via Naviance Score, C Alpha, MyLearning, you name it, Unifrog, and they have you complete all this stuff beforehand. And again, some of the best questions are, what did you enjoy about my class? What's a memory from my class you really enjoyed? When the teacher is asking directly. Other questions, like I said, are what are your long-term goals? What do you want to major in? Why do you want to go to the types of colleges you want to go to? And if you do have a type, like you're looking at small colleges or you're looking at big colleges, make sure the teacher knows that, so that maybe he or she can infuse that into the letter. Let's say you're only applying to small liberal arts schools and you've shared that with your teacher who's writing your academic letter of recommendation. The teacher could say in passing, I know Johnny's only looking at schools that are really small because that's the environment that he knows he will thrive in. That's the environment that he's either thrived in at our school, or because we're such a big school, he wants something smaller at the college level where he gets to know his teachers even more. So all of those contextual details make the letters much more human, much more juicy, and they're providing both objective and subjective content about you, quantitative content about you, maybe you're an A++ student, but also qualitative information about you that makes you more human, more likable, more relatable to the admissions officers who are often in their 20s, 30s, or 40s, who are often, imperfect people just like you, who are reading your letters of recommendation and want to relate to you and want to like you. Ultimately, they want to like you. So the more likable details and relatable details and authentic details you can be sharing with your teacher, either proactively providing that to your teacher after you ask the letter of recommendation teacher writer to do the thing that they're going to do for you, and they've said yes, and you're very courteous and you thank them, or reactively, where you're filling out a form for that teacher or taking part in an interview with that teacher at his or her request or behest or whatever, however it's going to go down. You want to provide as much information to that teacher as possible with as much lead time as possible so that they can maybe write that letter of recommendation over iced tea at the beach in July after your junior year. Okay, so that goes back to a previous video where we talked about when to ask. So again, this is me going big or going home with this last video. We're talking about what to provide in this video, but we've already talked about who to ask, when to ask, and how to ask. But today we're talking about what to provide the teacher so that the ultimate letter he or she's going to write is going to be as strong as possible. We talked about the resume. We talked about taking part in an interview if necessary with the teacher, if the teacher requests it, or at the very least proactively providing them maybe a page-long email where you share more details about why you picked the teacher, what you liked about their subject area or courses if you had them multiple times, and then also what are your goals academically, professionally, personally, so that all of those types of details can be interwoven into an ultimate strong letter for that teacher to write on your behalf as you apply to whatever types of colleges you find yourself applying to in the United States. And then again, you're going to do that twice because most likely you're going to have request 2 teacher recommendations because many colleges in the United States require that or recommend it strongly. And if you ultimately apply to colleges that require no teacher recommendations, many colleges will still accept 2 teacher recommendations. If you apply to colleges that require only 1, then you can always follow up with your counselor to see if he or she has seen the letters, and then you can ask him or her to just send whatever one he thinks or she thinks is strongest on your behalf. But that's a whole nother topic, and I've covered the topics I really want to cover. This is Teacher Appreciation Week. Thank your teacher in advance for all they do for you, and post haste, obviously, for all they've done for you already throughout your high school career. Be appreciative and have a lot of gratitude for your teachers this Teacher Appreciation Week, but every week of the year, because teachers often have a thankless job, and doing a teacher letter recommendation on your behalf for your college application is certainly going above and beyond. And so thank them multiple times after you have actually provided them all this information. Make sure you keep thanking them throughout the rest of your relationship with that teacher for all that they have done on your behalf. And also, let's say you do know they've completed it, submitted it, you see on Common App that it's been submitted. By all means, if your school allows it, give them a box of chocolates, give them a nice bottle of wine, or depending on what your budget is, just write them a nice little thank you card with a little smiley face in it, whatever you want to do. But try to thank them. Be courteous at the end. And again, especially if you get into a school high on your list or any school on your list, that day that you get in, go email them or see them in person and thank the teacher and tell them, keep them updated because their efforts helped you. So keep that individual or those individuals abreast about what it is you have achieved because they're part of that achievement, of course, and you could not have done it potentially without them. So that is also something I would say continue to do throughout your senior year, your 12th grade year, to keep them up to date about the results. Hopefully will be good throughout this process. All right, if you enjoyed this video and you want to learn more about teacher recommendations, watch the other 3 videos in the series, all of which are linked below. And I also encourage you to subscribe to my channel and also consider giving this video a thumbs up. If you want to work with me one-on-one throughout the entire college admissions process, or even just for part of it, you can do so by going to my website, which is collegemeister.com. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and most importantly, stay stress-free throughout the entire college admissions process.